Hi, my name is Lauren Yan, and this is my cultural awareness presentation. So, just a brief background about myself. I was born and raised in Boston, Massachusetts. I attended high school and college within the city or close to the city, and I was exposed to a lot of diversity, specifically while I was living in Chinatown. And it wasn't until recently that my family moved about 40 minutes west of Boston to Milford, Massachusetts, but I never really strayed too far from my hometown because I still work in Northeastern. I grew up surrounded by an Asian American family household and specifically Cantonese speaking from Hong Kong. And I grew up very closely with my grandparents who only spoke Cantonese. So I grew up with a lot of their traditions. I ate a lot of home cooked Chinese meals, and I celebrated major holidays like Chinese New Year and Lunar New Year that I still practice today. Most recently, I decided to convert to Islam, and this is because I'm engaged to someone who is Muslim. So, as a next step towards marriage, I agreed I would convert, and I'm very excited for this next chapter in my life because I would love to learn more about this religion, and it's because I never really practiced any religion while I was growing up. As for my worldview, I'll admit I do not have much global experience other than what I've learned through studies or news articles, but I did get the opportunity to study abroad in Liverpool for about 5 months in my junior year of college. And even though this was still an English speaking country, I still learned a lot about different cultures, within the country and then also from the other students who are studying abroad from all over the world. And there were students from like China, Australia, Netherlands, Italy, and Egypt. So it was a really great experience for me to learn about all these different cultures outside of my own. Now, moving to my first analysis, I'll be discussing my results from the Cultural Intelligence Assessment. Based on the main results, I scored moderately for drive, knowledge, and strategy, but I am low on the action category. And this makes sense to me, and I feel I am pretty self aware about my results because I'm naturally shy and pretty introverted. So it shows I like to learn and observe and plan, but I seldom take risk or know how to act on how I feel. And looking further into each category, I was high on sociolinguistics and values and norms. So this means I really like to learn and understand the full cultural situation and know how it affects people and how they think and behave. And since I'm high on these categories, it kind of counteracts the parts that I'm low on, which were speech acts, verbal, nonverbal actions, intrinsic interest, and self efficacy. And these categories mean I find it difficult to modify or know how to act in certain situations. And this makes sense because of my strengths. I focus on understanding everything first and learning everything as best as I can to not offend anyone or act in a wrong way with misinformation. So I feel that this test reflects my cultural awareness well, and I see how my strengths can benefit me, but I also see the areas that I need to improve on. Next, I'll discuss my results from the VIA Character Strengths Profile. My top three results were humility, fairness, and judgment, and this also makes sense because I really like to focus on other people and I want to understand the full scope of information before I make any decisions or actions. And then my bottom three results were leadership, bravery, and zest. So I feel that these results correlated well with the previous assessment because it shows that I'm a little hesitant when I take risk or act on decision making with confidence and courage. because I wanted to make sure I have the full information before doing anything. So I don't see this as a good or bad thing, but there probably needs to be more of a balance where I don't overthink situations and I can probably gain more confidence to make actions, show leadership, or to drive a conversation and express my opinions. My last analysis will be my results from the implicit association test, and I took the test that focused on gender and careers and religion. And based on these results, I personally do not agree with them, and I felt that my results were a little inaccurate. And after taking a couple more of these types of tests, I found that the results skewed more towards how the test was oriented first. So if there was like a good and then a bad side, and then it showed like male and female, I would just learn those motions based on toggling my fingers on the keyboard, and then I would just get used to that motion, and that's how I would base my judgment. It wasn't really based on the words or associations. And the results of the test also didn't match my answers from the post survey. And for example, I felt pretty neutral towards gender and careers. And then, as I mentioned in my background, I'm converting to Islam, so I would assume that my judgment would lead more towards that religion, but my results showed a slight opposite. And then these results, or this kind of relates to one of the articles that we read titled Assessing Cross-Cultural Competence, since in their study they found that many assessments lacked ecological validity, and the results were not fully able to test behaviors towards cultural awareness. So overall, I am not sure maybe if this test is inaccurate, or maybe I just need to take more of these types of tests to understand how they came to these kind of results. Lastly, in my presentation, I would like to discuss my cultural field and my development plan for my studies. So I chose to study Asian Americans in higher education in the United States, and this is mainly based on my own personal experience as being an Asian American in higher ed. I would like to go into this study to understand my own role in this field, because since working at Northeastern for about 3 years now, I've noticed that sometimes I can be the only Asian American in the room, and I feel like I'm seen as different. I don't really fit in, and that's not really a comfortable position to be in, if I'm being honest. I also noticed that people of color, specifically Asians, are not very represented within higher education. I would love to take more knowledge from this research to make others consider the importance of inclusion and diversity within our workplace, and if it can positively affect our work culture, then we can bring these results to our hiring process, our HR, to see where we can make some sort of improvements. I understand that going into this research, it's solely based on my little knowledge of the employees that I know and that I've seen around Boston campuses, or speaking to others that are in similar roles as me as an event manager. So I do plan to do a lot of demographical and statistical research on colleges across the United States, and also looking at the general demographics in different regions of the United States. I want to also learn more about Asian American career field choices, because I understand that a job within the full scope of higher education isn't necessarily a typical career field path that one chooses. And lastly, I would like to clarify that my research will cover the Pan-Asian scope, so anyone who identifies as an Asian American, including backgrounds in East Asia, South Asia, and Southeast Asia. Um, this results, or the results of the research, would be very important to me specifically in working in the commencement office because we put so much emphasis in encouraging our students to show how diverse they are because they truly are really diverse. We have campuses around the globe with students attending, all around the North America region, but we also just open campuses in London and we have students in Shanghai, so everywhere. Um, and we have also a lot of international students who travel from very far away to attend our campus in Boston to do their studies. So we want to make sure that they're all represented. However, when they are looking up to our staff and faculty as these types of role models, I'm not sure if we're fully represented in our leadership. So I want to make sure that the people that they're looking up to are really represented in who they are. So if our staff and faculty are not diverse, then how does that reflect towards our students? So overall, I want to go into the study specifically looking at Asian Americans to understand our current cultural situation in higher education, where we can make any improvements in our workplace, and also if this representation can show more inclusion and diversity towards our students. And that concludes my presentation. I look forward to hearing all of your feedback. Thank you.